Live from UBC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda Extra.
And this is the first day after the lockdown of the 42 days, and our first day for the other service providers, the public transport operators, and quite a number of people who are resuming and starting work today after the 42 days of the lockdown. My name is Jagenda Semakola Ziksoka. On another lovely Monday, welcome to Good Morning Uganda Extra here on UBC TV this morning. And of course, this particular day today is the second day of the breastfeeding week, which starts started yesterday, and it continues until the 7th. Now, every year, 1st to 7th of August is, I call the breastfeeding week, and now our discussion today is going to be centered on the breastfeeding week. Joining me in studios, two health workers here, Rachel, a midwife from Rubaga Hospital. You're very welcome.
Thank you, sir.
A very good morning.
Very good morning to you.
Thank you so much for joining me this morning. And Mr. Katumba Lawrence, also a nurse from Entebbe Grade B Hospital. You're also very welcome, Mr. Katumba.
Thank you, sir.
I am happy to have you. Let's start with the breastfeeding week and what that means. You know, my colleague in studios here, Ruben, doesn't want to see male nurses, and he wonders how a man actually becomes a nurse. Let's start with that, to just allay Ruben's fears.
Okay. It is just a service that you have to render, and we always think that we have to have an upper hand, or we think we need to be aggressive, and now males do it in such a way that where females maybe can be a bit of oppression, that males can come up at least to shine and bring up the art of the nursing and the service at large. So males make it comprehensive and a bit standard.
Okay.
So we work together with females, but the aspect of male-female doesn't really matter.
Are there male midwives?
Yes.
Oh.
Actually, where I trained from, we have male midwives, and they are great.
They're great.
You'll be shocked, but they are really great.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. Let's get to the breastfeeding week, and I'll start with you, Rachel, yourself here. We talk about the breastfeeding week and why. But to start with, why the breastfeeding week and why must it be a whole week? And after 1 week, then what happens after the breastfeeding week? What about those who are not breastfeeding? What do they have to do with this particular week? Welcome.
Well, thank you so much. In the way you have asked about why does it have to be a whole week, actually, it's like one of the questions my friends asked me, why does it have to be a week? Isn't it enough one day?
One day, the breastfeeding day, and no.
You know, breastfeeding for so long has been looked at as an obvious, process, an obvious event that, a mother gets pregnant, gives birth, and she breastfeeds her baby, fine. But later on we realized, however much it was being looked at as an obvious event, it ended up being neglected by very many. So the WHO realized there is need for sensitization. There's nothing that you can say is obvious. Some things may seem obvious to you, but actually to the general public, they will be overlooking it as something that is not so important. So making it a whole week is key, because we want to show the seriousness of the matter. And this whole week is used for sensitization and to teach. We teach every day at hospitals. We have CMEs, that is the continuous medical education. We have health talks with the mothers about breastfeeding. But this one is a different kind, because it's a global kind of time that is put aside for everybody everywhere to talk about this breastfeeding. Yes. So one day can be enough, but 1 week is more enough. That's what I can say.
Mr. Katumba, she said something that when you talk about breastfeeding, to some people it just seems so obvious. But is there anything very complicated with breastfeeding, or it's just that obvious thing? Still, we think breastfeeding is something that is obvious. Do breastfeeding mothers, because the moment you get pregnant, give birth to, that one, you are breastfed. Two, before you even give birth, you've seen people breastfeeding, so you know that it is part of the process. obvious. So when you give birth to a child, then you know it's obvious for you to breastfeed. Must we remind mothers that when they give birth, they're actually supposed to breastfeed? Or there's something very specific that you, the health workers, are looking at in this particular campaign of breastfeeding?
Okay, yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, I would like to talk about, okay, our theme for this week, 2021, is we are looking at protecting breastfeeding, which is a shared responsibility.
Okay.
So basically we are packaging it, and we are looking at thematic area 2 of the World Breastfeeding Week. We are looking at Sustainable Development Goal, the 2030 campaign. And basically we are looking at promotion of health for the babies, the mothers, and then the nation at large. So we have to really understand the comprehensive bit of breastfeeding. It doesn't really, it is not a one man's job. So we have to, all of us come together to really man breastfeeding. So it is me, your neighbor, your father, your mother, your granny, who come together to support the breastfeeding after knowing the benefits. So it is really challenging due to the busy schedules of women, and we know the world of today, what goes on here and there. There are so many limitations to breastfeeding.
Okay, and actually I think where I seem not to understand is when you talk about breastfeeding as a shared responsibility.
Yeah.
She's given birth to a child. How should that be my responsibility when she's supposed to breastfeed? You have the baby, you have the breasts, and you have the milk in you.
Yes.
How should it be a responsibility of all of us?
Yes.
That's what I want to understand from this.
Yeah, sure. That is to come from the grassroots of that. So if you give birth to a child, you know, at times they say the child is for the nation. So breastfeeding has its advantages, and basically aggressive development of the child and brain level. So if you look at brain development, we are looking at the benefits that the nation will get from you if you have an upright mental upbringing. So if you breastfeed, you get enough nutrients. And you are looking at a community where everyone has the right judgment or the right upbringing because of what we were fed. So if we are not fed well, you cannot grow up well. You will be maybe vulnerable to diseases, because breast milk is one of the meals that provide antibodies that fight against neonatal or baby illnesses. So it puts you in a stronghold of your body and development that will give, at the end of it, the cumulative, we will have health babies and health adults at the end. So if we come together to know the advantages of breastfeeding, so at the end, the all nation at large, that is Uganda, and all people who will be in Uganda, if they are breastfed well, we are looking at the intellectual aspect.
Okay. How long should somebody breastfeed, Rachel? We need to know, because there are people who breastfeed for a couple of months. There are those who extend it to several months. There are those, I think, who even get into years. We just need to know, because people breastfeed differently because of the way of life. Some women who are at home every day, the only thing they do is to have a baby with them, so they can breastfeed for as long as they can still do that. Then there are those, the working class, the Rachels here, who do not have a lot of time in their homes. So you breastfeed for 1 week and you feel your businesses are dying, your job is dying, your career is demanding somehow, then you keep running away. You know, so we breastfeed differently because of the different things that we do. But what is ideal, what is recommended for a woman to breastfeed a baby?
Well, it is recommended that a mother should breastfeed her child exclusively for the first 6 months. And exclusively, by exclusive I mean breast milk will be the only meal for that baby. And then after the 6 months, she can start to add complementary feeds. That does not mean there is no more breastfeeding. Okay. She continues to breastfeed this baby for at least up to 2 years. That is the recommended. And it is recommended like that because the studies have shown that when you breastfeed a baby, especially the first 6 months, there is a lot of brain development. This baby needs something that we are sure of, its sterility. So breast milk, like Katumba said, it has its properties that when a baby sucks, we are sure that this baby is safe, because it can fight disease, it can give the nutrients as well as fight the infections. So up to 2 years is the recommended. And then maybe just to add on what you said, a shared responsibility. Breastfeeding is something that has very many aspects to it. It has the emotional aspect to it. So that the emotional, the physical, there are so many things around the woman and within the woman that actually affect breastfeeding. You talked about why me, a man? I mean, is the woman, she has the breast, she gave birth, she should breastfeed her child. You're right. But trust me, you being a man, the things you do to this woman is going to enhance her breastfeeding. The stress you impart on this woman is going to affect the hormones that are supposed to let down the milk, or are supposed to make the milk itself. So you find a woman who is so stressed, there will be no milk. So a woman who is free in her mind, she will be able to to give milk. If a woman poorly feeds, what a woman has in her body is what she will give.
Exactly.
If she's deficient, then
you actually talk about a very important thing, the feeding bit of it.
Yes.
Is it also very obvious that when you're breastfeeding, you know what to eat, or there are specific things that somebody needs to eat for them to be able to actually have to produce the milk in them to feed the babies? Is it also obvious, or there are certain things that we need to know as breastfeeding parents?
Well, what I can say is we encourage mothers to, not even only for breastfeeding, right from pregnancy, to have a balanced diet. And by having a balanced diet is their meal should have at least a proportion of all the nutrients that are required. There are some instances, of course, we have certain nutrients in certain foods that are said to increase the production or the letdown of milk. But the bottom line is, before that milk is let down, it is already having the nutrients that are required for this baby. And these nutrients is what mother eats for herself. Like if she eats the beans, if she eats the greens, if she eats all those nutrients is what the baby will have. So if she's deficient in any form of nutrient, the baby will also...
So she passes on the deficiency?
Yes, something like that. Not exactly, but something like that.
Okay. Ndugu Katumba, you see, we are in a lockdown, and we're managing life. Thank God it's not yet safe for us to be out there, but there is this ease of the lockdown for people to be able to go and fend for themselves and in a way. People, of course, will have all these excuses. Now, you are in a breastfeeding week campaign to create awareness to the people here. But how should they manage themselves now during this time in as far as qualifying something to eat? Because there could be a breastfeeding mother who simply says, for as long as I have my kawunga in the house and my beans in the house, and they're breastfeeding, what do they need to do, and how can they supplement on their feeding to be able to actually also be beneficial and useful to the babies?
As my colleague has said, if you eat something, the process of the body will help to ferment and make the breast milk required. A balanced diet is basic, but we are not like urging people to go and maybe find this and that to add on their plate when they can't afford it. So we are looking at if you can have a meal, at least, which can make you satisfied. You get well hydrated, maybe you drink something, and you feel at least you're free to go. The body will at least manufacture what is required for the baby. So it is not that you have to go and buy beans, you have to go and buy meat, fish, and all other things.
Which you can't afford.
Yeah, which you can't afford. We are all calling upon you, just feed enough, but you feel that is enough for you. Then also have a right mindset, because it all starts in the mind. So if you have a right mindset that you should breastfeed your baby after knowing the benefits, you'll really be good to go and you will have the milk.
Does a breastfeeding mother benefit from the exercise of breastfeeding, or it's just about the baby?
Yeah, absolutely, the mother benefits because starting from labor. So if after giving birth, there are some hormones which are excreted, and these hormones will guide or help this mother. So if the baby starts breastfeeding, those hormones which are produced will help to prevent things like bleeding, severe bleeding, which occurs after giving birth. Also, we are seeing benefits. Studies have shown mothers who are breastfeeding have lesser chances of getting breast cancer, like also getting ovarian cancer. And we have seen also it is a family planning method, yeah, lactation amenorrhea method. So mothers use it at least to space. If used well, it can help to space children. Yeah, and also we are seeing breastfeeding like acts as an attachment. You get to love your baby more.
The emotional attachment.
Yes, as you breastfeed.
The bonding.
Yes. Yeah, sure.
Okay. Well, that's important. Now, we are in a COVID-19 pandemic. And what we're now discussing or talking about is the vaccine. We've had lots of things being said about the vaccines, how they work in the body and all the things. And now, I don't know whether you've tried it out, whether you've seen people, whether you've even experienced it. But is it safe for breastfeeding mothers to receive that COVID jab? Is it safe for them? And what does that happen to the baby? To even know whether it's good or not even good, but is it safe for mothers to actually receive a vaccine? I don't know whether you've seen any breastfeeding mothers do that. I don't know whether you've seen any pregnant women do that. But what are you telling us as the health workers?
Yeah, we are seeing vaccines, and we are seeing who should get the vaccine. Yeah. It has shown, actually, UNICEF, CDC, and WHO have shown that it is, if we look at maybe, if we look at Pfizer and Moderna, they are like, if you give a vaccine, is what they call a messenger RNA. This one does not enter into the cell. So there are no chances that it will be expressed through the breast milk. So these mothers are safe to be immunized. There is no way that we can have the vaccine or its secretions going to the milk, the breast milk being produced. So also we've seen AstraZeneca.
So there's a study on Pfizer and Moderna.
Yes.
Because it's a messenger RNA, it doesn't get into
the breast.
The breast, okay? So for a mother breastfeeding, if they took a Pfizer or a Moderna, they would still be okay to...
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
then
still to add AstraZeneca and Johnson & Johnson, they are non-replicating. So there are no chances that they can be expressed through the breast milk. So we are seeing that they are also safe to be given. Yeah, so as per now, we don't have so much data to support that, but at least the recommendation from CDC and WHO, they show that it is safe to give these vaccines.
Okay, so in other words, you are saying a breastfeeding mother can even receive a COVID jab?
Yeah, sure.
Especially what we're giving now.
Yeah.
Pfizer is okay, Moderna is okay, AstraZeneca is okay, and maybe J&J. What we have now is, but these are, like you're saying, these are studies that we need to keep develop and you know, get into and quite a number of things. Okay, and now with the breastfeeding itself that we're talking about, it's a week that we do you have any specific activities that you are arranging that will engage the public, will engage the mothers? I don't know, in the health facilities, people are now coming to hospitals mainly to test for COVID and to treat COVID and do many other things, and except those who are coming for special other things. But what have you packaged for this week to the breastfeeding mothers that they need to keep knowing and that it should continue extending to them? Rachel.
Well, I'm sure the different stakeholders have what they have put in place. But specifically what I can say is as health workers who are targeting at maternal child health, we want to intensify, because according to statistics show that however much the mothers are breastfeeding their babies, many of them are still not breastfeeding. So we want to intensify the sensitization, the teachings. So just like I said, however, though we have been teaching, we want to use this 1 week, take it like a breastfeeding week. So in our hospitals, we want to make breastfeeding as a topic for mothers everywhere you are. You are a health worker. You find a mother who is in a childbearing age. talk to her about breastfeeding. And the people, like there are organizations like that are sponsoring shows like this on different TV stations throughout the week. Opportunity like that, we want to go and sensitize. So even when I am in the community, wherever I am, so in my mind, I know that this week, I've been talking about breastfeeding, but this week is for breastfeeding again. So everything I do, everyone I get to, even a man, I have to tell you, please breastfeed your child. Because all of us, actually, I can say all of us are breastfeeders. It can be directly or indirectly. Just like Katumba said, a shared responsibility. So this week, every person that is associated with maternal child health has it in their mind that this is a breastfeeding week. So whoever you meet, a mother you meet, whatever you're doing, just make sure you mention something about breastfeeding. Yes, that's what I can say.
Okay, our cultures have different myths that they hold over certain things. And you'll notice that when you go to maybe a home area, they could understand breastfeeding differently from my area, from his area, from any other person. Are there any specific myths or mysteries about breastfeeding that we can debunk, that people look to or look at as things possibly that they call breastfeeding or not call breastfeeding? Katumba.
Yeah, so there are some myths really which are being attached to breastfeeding. For example, if you look at some mothers say that if I feed my child, I get cracked nipples, or my nipples will really pain. So for first-time mothers, it is really normal to get some sensation when you're breastfeeding. But it goes away when you get used, because the more you get attached to your baby and you position well your baby, so it is like you get used to what you're doing and you learn it more. So in that accord that we call upon all midwives and all health workers to teach mothers how to latch their babies.
Breastfeeding flattens their breasts,
Yes.
and they don't want to get those levels. They don't want to see their breasts flattening.
Yes.
How about that? So can somebody actually, for her to keep her breast where she wants it, can she avoid breastfeeding?
Yeah, sure.
And go a different way?
If I look at that, so if you love the baby, the aspect of flattening the breast and whatever you're doing is really not too much of something to worry about. But as we know, so there are some exercises which are attached to whatever we do, so that we can maybe go back in shape and maybe conform to what the figure we want. So looking at if the mother really bonds well to the child, the issue of flattening the breast milk is not an issue. And also there are some myths attached to exercise, that when I exercise, maybe I'll get dilute milk or things like that. No, it is healthy actually to do some bit of exercises when you're breastfeeding, so that it makes your body circulate well and you freshen up, so you're good to go and breastfeed well.
Okay. How about scenarios where some mothers will have excuses of being sick, that they can't breastfeed because they are sick now? When you have a sickness of any type, it could be a cancer, it could be malaria, it could be any illness, any sickness of sorts. Are you supposed to breastfeed? And when you do that, aren't you passing on this disease to the baby that you're actually breastfeeding? Mothers need to know.
Actually, what I can say about that is, I've personally not yet heard of a disease being passed on through the milk. Yeah, that's what I can say. If it is there, then maybe I've not yet read about it.
So there's a mother who will say, I'm not breastfeeding because in Dimulwadni.
Yes. Now, such a mother just needs to be, I can say needs to be taught, because I can't blame her. But she could be having her reasons that maybe my baby will get the illness. If she has that reason of the baby may get the illness, then she needs to be taught. She needs to be told and explained to that actually this disease cannot go to your baby even if you breastfeed. But if you don't breastfeed, then your baby is going to miss out on so many things. However, there can be a mother who is so bedridden that she can even barely eat. For such a mother, you don't even need to tell her not to breastfeed, because trust me, if a mother is not breastfeeding, there will be no breast milk. So just look at a mother who is in ICU, who is not feeding well, and she is a lactating mother, it is going to be difficult for the body to keep up the process of producing the milk, because she's not feeding well, because whatever she eats is what the body will use to manufacture the milk. So that one is a different case altogether, because it is a tragedy. But just for the issue of a disease passing on to the child, you haven't come across
no. Yes.
Yeah, just to supplement from what Rachel has said. Yeah, you talked about cancer. Yeah, there are some anti-cancer drugs where we are seeing when a mother is lactating and she's on some anti-cancer drugs, which can be secreted through the breast milk. She's advised accordingly. So also there are some drugs like antipsychotics, like lithium. We are seeing also drugs like amiodarone. They can be expressed through the breast milk. So a physician who is attending to a lactating mother always give guidance to what to do about the period when the mother is on that kind of a drug. And there are some best prescriptions made for the baby and for the mother, so that time may be on therapy, like they can maybe get some good alternatives. Then after, the baby can breastfeed again.
Yeah, maybe just to add on, in addition to that, we have chronic illnesses also, but these ones does not really mean that they are getting to the baby through the milk exactly. But for example, if a mother has cracked nipples, it can happen. Not because of breastfeeding, but sometimes that's why the teachings about breastfeeding also encompasses teaching the mother on how to care for her breast, so that they will not be dried, they will not be cracked in the process. So if a mother has cracked nipples, then it is advised, for example, those who are HIV positive, to first hold on for a while, because if there are open wounds, then there is a
high risk of
transmitting the
transmitting the virus onto the others.
Yes.
How about those who have issues of I am trying to breastfeed, but I don't have the breast milk in me? We've also heard this from the different mothers. Now, she does not have all these problems that we possibly know or see, but she's given birth, and she says, Sina Maviri. We've had women say, I am breastfeeding, but I don't have the milk in me. What happens in such a situation, and what is the fate of the baby whose mother is struggling to have the milk and the breast to feed?
Well, maybe I can say something, then Kachumba will add. Actually, I have a personal, or not a personal experience, but someone close to me had that kind of issue. She delivered her baby, and unfortunately, the delivery was not, I can say, it was not the natural kind of, because she had what we called PROM, like premature rupture of membranes. Labor had not yet started, then the waters broke, and then they had to induce. So many of such mothers always have that issue, because the process was not very natural.
Okay.
Yes. But there are those who also go through the natural process but still have such issues. Now, what we always encourage those mothers, we encourage them to drink fluids and eat well. We also encourage them to keep giving the baby suck, even if there is no milk, because the process of breastfeeding is controlled by hormones in the body, and these hormones are triggered by certain reflexes. So the more she puts the baby on the breast, even if, of course, you know, even if I were the one, I mean, you're giving me to suck and there is nothing, I will not hold on there.
You're only trying to.
Yeah, also you find babies keep crying, and then the mother will be like, even if I put the baby on the breast, he will just keep crying and there will be nothing. But still, we encourage them, even if the baby is crying, after a while, put back, because the more you put, the more the reflex, the sucking reflex is sent to the brain. And then the brain will produce the oxytocin and the prolactin that is required to produce and to let down the milk. So the more the mother, you have actually, from what I have seen, in the hospitals, there are mothers who give birth and there is no milk. But there is this one, even though there is no milk, the more she continues to give baby suck, the more she does it, the faster the milk comes.
Okay.
But there is this one, the lesser she does it, the longer it will take for the milk to let down. And also, of course, keeping with the feeding and drinking fluids, we always encourage them to drink fluids, to eat vegetables, and to drink porridge, because milk is fluidy. you know. So fluids, actually water and porridge and all forms of meals will also help in the preparation of
all those that are available.
Yes.
How about scenarios where we have also seen mothers who give birth? Now you just talked about the prom, and I'm not looking at the prom bit of it, but we've seen mothers who have given birth to prematures, 6 months, 6.5 months, maybe 7 months, and you know, because of the pressures and all these things, then they give birth to these children who at times even put in incubators. What happens to their breasts? Do they have the milk with them at the time or no? And I'm looking at the scenario where the child is growing externally in an incubator, but the mother is here with the breasts with the hormones that are actually started forming for that process. What happens to them, and how would you advise them going forward? Mr. Katum.
Okay, yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, we are looking at the body system is all about hormones. And we know progesterone basically is the hormone of pregnancy. And if the levels of progesterone are high, we will not have secretion of breast milk. But we are looking at if the baby is out, there will be hormonal changes. So the progesterone, the levels will still go down. Then we will have these other hormones coming. Because if what the progesterone has been protecting is out, then we are seeing other hormones will come in to counterbalance or to balance so that we can get breast milk expressed and produced. So in the same accord, we are not saying that all conditions are normal. There are some abnormal aspects whereby there are some issues on the maybe a gland level that a woman cannot really produce breast milk. So that means at least you should either go to the hospital for further investigation. Because irrespective of you give the baby suck, you try this and that, you might not really produce the breast milk. So it is advisable for you to seek medical help so that you can be helped out. So it is actually beneficial for you to get counsel from maybe a midwife or who are like your attendant during delivery, because stimulation of breast milk basically starts from your head. When the baby cries, there is that call, and you feel that there is something going on. When you feel that you've had a baby and you start getting attached to this baby, the love for the baby changes your body system. So if the hormones are in harmony with the baby, everything will be well.
Are there alternatives to breastfeeding in such scenarios where you have a problem like that, you are maybe giving the baby to suck to generate hormones, or you're actually even doing medication or of any sorts to see how you get the breast milk in you to be able to feed? In the process, what happens to the baby? Are there alternatives that health recommends, that medicine recommends, that a baby whose mother does not produce milk, and this baby is just a few days old, a few weeks old, and it is supposed to feed up to maybe 6 months, and we do not know when the mother will actually come back to normal, to be able to naturally do the breastfeeding. Are there alternatives? What do we do? Can we hire a breast somewhere to feed this baby? Because we've had people say, and you wonder how that happened. But somehow, somebody says, I was breastfed by my grandmother. You know, I just want to know the science there, whether there could be those alternatives to say, we can either buy milk, or in the quest that we cannot afford buying the milk, then we can give our baby to a bear to actually do the breastfeeding as the mother here is healing. Can we do that?
Okay.
Okay, maybe before we answer that, I wanted to supplement something on the prematures.
Please do.
Sometimes it could be that actually the mother has milk, but the baby can't suck. And it is very common with the premature babies. They don't have the sucking reflex. Or it is there, but it's very minimal, you know. And many of them, when they are in the nursery unit where they are kept in the incubators and the so-called, so they normally even insert NG tubes for such babies sometimes, because somehow the baby can't suck. So even if you are to use a feeding bottle, the baby is not going to suck it. So as we wait for the baby to grow, we cannot just leave the baby hungry, because then the baby will not grow. So we always teach the mothers breast milk expression. So we teach them to express the breast milk, and then we also teach them to feed their babies through the NG tube as we monitor the babies, whether the sucking reflex are returning. So when the sucking reflexes return and it is still minimal, we still encourage them to express and then feed the babies now using bottles. And we also teach them, of course, to try to maintain the sterility of those bottles. So that one is an alternative for mothers who have breasts but babies can't suck. Then for mothers who don't have breast milk completely, for maybe the reasons and our nurse has said, it can be at glandular level, it can be, they're actually ladies, even you can see who really just don't have breasts. Or it is there, but it is, the mammary glands are not as prominent as we expect. So for such mothers, there are formulas that are actually more encouraged than cow milk. Because they try, they are modified, they try truly to imitate. Of course, they cannot exactly replace breast milk, but they are made in such a way that it can help the baby to a certain percentage, at least in comparison to breast milk. And then what you have also said about, I've also heard of that, although I've not interfaced with someone who have seen someone breastfeeding another person's child, but I've heard of such testimonies of someone being breastfed by a woman who is not a biological.
Exactly.
Yes, but I think it still comes back to the hormonal bit of it.
Okay.
Yes, the hormones, the hormonal plays, and it can happen.
Mr. Katumba.
Yes, yeah, basically those ones, they are called wet nurses.
Wet?
Yes. Whether there's this option where someone can breastfeed your child. Maybe given the time limit that finds this one has active mammary glands and can produce breast milk. So we've seen some advocacy that where maybe they can express breast milk and be kept somewhere for feeding to these babies. So in some countries, we don't know if it is being effected, but we've seen that it is advised for mothers to express their breast milk and keep it somewhere, then they can give their children. Then also, we are seeing at a certain level, some formulas it is basic for them to be recommended by a pediatrician. Yeah, because if you find that someone just recommends for the purpose of marketing, you're seeing, we've seen babies with overweight.
True.
Overweight for age, and those are problems. There are health-related factors to that. So it is basic for a pediatrician to recommend a formula.
Okay.
Maybe if a mother comes back to normal, they can resume at any time breastfeeding.
Okay. When should the baby start feeding after birth, after it's been given birth to? You give birth today. When do you start breastfeeding?
Okay, we recommend, if all is well, in the first hour.
Okay.
So actually normal deliveries, after the baby being pulled out, is put on the lap. Then at that process, there are possibilities of looking for the breast and start suckling. So if the baby is very well and there is no problem with the baby, they can start immediately. So, but we are looking at the standard to be within 1 hour, that we can share the benefits to the mother and the baby.
Is this the same for the C section bit of it?
Yeah,
is it the same for the C-section bit of it?
Yeah, cesarean section, if after theater and everything, the mother is normal and the baby is well, she can breastfeed. Okay. Yes.
What about if it doesn't happen within the first hour of the recommended first hour, and you do it maybe after the 6 hours? We're looking at a situation that has not been normal, that the mother had to be sedated in there because maybe she even had to go on oxygen, over some complications, and it takes a lapse of about 6 hours. Is that late for anything in the baby, or we can still catch up?
Yeah, we can still catch up, because the thing is, at this moment in time, there is what we know that this is standard, but there are other factors that can be in the way, and at least we extend, because at times even some babies are asphyxiated.
Okay.
So they cannot really suckle or breastfeed.
Okay.
So we have to first resuscitate them to normal, then they can after come to breastfeed.
Okay.
So we give that allowance, but we know the gold standard should be within 1 hour. But after, even though it is 3-4 days, we can resume breastfeeding. There is no
Okay. We have just about 2 minutes to be out of studios. What recommendations do you give to the public, those that are watching you now on the Breastfeeding Week? And of course, thereafter, we'll also hear from Abel to also give us parting shots.
Okay, yeah. What I'm calling upon the public, Uganda in general, mothers and fathers and all people in the community, we should really embrace breastfeeding. This being a shared responsibility, the children of tomorrow or the Uganda of tomorrow is basing on what do we produce. So what we produce depends on what we feed our children. If we feed poison, we will get poison out of these children. So we will have a higher life expectancy if we feed our children well. And also in that accord, we would like to applaud the Seed Health Global and Makerere University Nursing Students Association and all nurses and midwives of Uganda for the good work they are doing and all the sponsorship, and also the Entebbe family for the good work you're doing for the mothers. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you very much. Mr. Lawrence Katumba, a graduate nurse working at a Grade B hospital in Entebbe. Thank you. Finally, from you, Rachel.
Finally, those of us who are watching out there, you might be married, you might be single, you might be a pregnant mother, might be a pregnant father, you might be a lactating mother or a lactating father. Let us breastfeed our babies. You fathers and you males, do not leave this role to only your wives, because your input matters a lot. Tomorrow, it is going to be about this woman who has a triple role in the community, and her role is going to affect our entire lives. So let us encourage them in all aspects. Let us breastfeed these children exclusively for 6 months, and then with complementary feeds up to at least 2 years. And I also want to take this opportunity to appreciate Makerere University Nurses Students Association, the Seed Global Health. I appreciate Lubaga Hospital for the great work you're doing. I commend you and encourage you to continue doing that. I also appreciate Lira University, where I trained from, my lecturers and my friends out there. This profession is a calling, and do not give it up, because these mothers rely on you. I also appreciate my parents. I also appreciate God, above all, who has given us the opportunity to live and this chance to speak to you and to encourage you. Please breastfeed and tell someone about breastfeeding. Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you so much. Abel Rachel is also a midwife working with Rubaga Hospital. Thank you so much for also allowing to be with me here on this day as we talk about the Breastfeeding Week. Now, to all the midwives and the nurses out there, I love scientists. I respect scientists, but my best are the nurses and midwives. That I'm selfish about it, and I want to appreciate them. I want to thank them, the nurses everywhere, wherever you are. I have interacted with nurses during this COVID pandemic, and I've appreciated how much they sacrifice for all of us to live and to have this opportunity. Thank you so much, nurses and the midwives out there, and of course all the scientists. And a blessed Breastfeeding Week. It is a shared responsibility, like they've told us, for all of us. My name is Jagan Asemakola Ziksoka. Wishing all the best for the week. Stay blessed again. Good morning and bye-bye.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda Extra.